Thanks for staying with us here on CBS News. We're taking you back now live to Fulton County, Georgia, where the first televised hearing is underway in the election interference case against former President Trump and 18 other defendants.
The hearing started in the last hour. Let's watch.
All of the law is applicable to all of the defendants. And two, evidence against any defendant may properly be considered against each of the defendants in a RICO conspiracy case, so there's no risk of this spillover effect. Just to mention three, again, they can see that that's not an issue here. That's all I have, Judge, unless you have any questions.
Just a few. So these, again, the three factors, those are just, would you agree that those aren't exclusive?
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely.
All right, so we're really supposed to take into consideration the circumstances of the entire case and anything that just might be present in this case and may not be in others, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I guess some of the things I think we need to think through, to me also, it's more this position that we still need to have all 19 people at the table 47 days from now. And maybe this is something, if you need to tag team in with somebody else on the council, one of the first things I kind of want to talk through is potentially how removal affects this. So I know your state is currently litigating this issue with multiple of the co-defendants in federal court. And while that's happening, until a decision is made, we can't issue a judgment of conviction here, right?
Yes, Judge.
Now, no matter how Judge Jones rules, isn't either party going to have the right to appeal that ruling?
That is correct, Judge. Our position is that both sides would have the right to appeal.
And so the 11th Circuit could take any idea of how long to weigh in?
As long as they need to.
Right. So it could potentially even optimistically be a 6-month turnaround just for the 11th Circuit to come up with a decision, right?
Yes, sir.
So if it's a 4-month trial that starts in October, we're potentially sitting at a point where we presented the entire state's case. Maybe even the jury has returned a verdict, but we can't enter that judgment of conviction until the 11th Circuit comes to a decision. Is that kind of the scenario we're playing out here?
Judge, I think...
Excuse me, if we could have a moment, Judge.
So as you've been watching the first hearing in the Georgia election interference case, what you're seeing on screen right now, this is case law that is being presented. This is the actual feed from the courtroom. You see in the top right of your screen, the live camera feed from inside the courtroom. On the main screen are case law being presented by the sides as they debate whether or not to sever the cases between Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell. So that case law is being presented. That is on the court feed, the case law that you see on the screen.
And we just heard Judge Scott McAfee wonder aloud a possible scenario in which there might be an appeal and how long that would play out. Let's bring in Jessica Levinson. She's a CBS News legal contributor and professor at Loyola Law School, also listening in. And here's the other update for our viewers, Jessica. Nicole Killian sharing that on the side of the state, they've estimated that this case could take about 4 months and include 150 witnesses. And so the judge is posing the question, well, if there's an appeal through the 11th Circuit, wouldn't that take more time and another 6 months? From your point of view, how is this playing out and what cards is Judge McAfee now starting to show?
So I think he's showing that he is on top of the facts and he's on top of the case law. Since last we spoke, I think that the district attorney's office did present a compelling case for why we should view this as one single conspiracy and why severing the case is not legally required. Now, of course, we talked about before, and the district attorney acknowledged that the judge does have discretion here, but the district attorney really did go prong by prong through the applicable case law and said, I know that essentially what the defendants are arguing here is that they're only part of this one slice of a conspiracy, that they are separate factually. But we're alleging a grand conspiracy. We're alleging a criminal enterprise. And there's nothing in the law that requires, and they would argue even gives guidance to say, carve out different trials for Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell. Now, the topic that the judge just asked about before we started our conversation is one that's separate in the sense that he's saying, I know that what we're talking about is whether or not in state court to sever Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell. But I also know that there are issues of some defendants being asked for removal to federal court, for instance, Mark Meadows. And he said, how would that play out? What if I go forward with my case? And you just heard him say, what if the district attorney brings the case even goes to the jury? But if there's still a question about whether or not some defendants should be removed to federal court, I can't enter a conviction. So he's trying to play out what else is going on here. It's not just when do the state defendants go forward? It's also some people asking to bump up to federal court.
Jessica, let's talk about the DA's strategy here. Why do they want Chesebro and Powell to be tried alongside the 17 other defendants? Do they see that as more advantageous for their case?
I think so. So there's also the issue of resources, and you don't want to have to make the same case over and over again. I think it is also helpful for the prosecution. This is why they charge this as a RICO case, to say that these aren't just separate crimes committed by, and you can see the defendants up here on the screen, these 19 defendants, but they were all engaged in the same purpose. They all acted together, albeit in different ways, to try and undermine the election. And they all did that in ways that amount to violations of the state penal code. And so for the prosecution, I think it's helpful because they can essentially sweep in more facts, more law, more defendants, and they don't have to prove their case over and over again, different slices of that case. They're saying this is a cohesive whole. Don't look at one puzzle piece, look at the entire picture.
And with the fact that the argument that lawyers are making for Chesebro and Powell to Judge McAfee is, look, our clients are entitled to a speedy and fair trial, and by joining them all together, it may violate that. You also have, as you mentioned, the Mark Meadows effort to take it to a federal court, not a state court. But with all of these forces at play, Jessica, is it really likely that this October 23rd date that the prosecution is suggesting is realistic? Or will we find out today whether this judge is really amenable to that type of delay tactic?
I will say it's hard to think that that's realistic with respect to all 19. Now, if you do sever Kenneth Chesebro, is it realistic that the prosecution could go forward in about 7 weeks now with respect to one defendant? Yes, that is realistic. Let's remember that this case isn't new to the district attorney. They presented this case to a special grand jury. Then they presented this case to a kind of typical grand jury, for lack of a better way of describing it. And then they presented the indictment. So this is a case where the district attorney has said, we're ready to go. For the reasons that we just discussed, they would prefer to go with respect to all the defendants. But again, because of the severance issues, because of the removal issues, because some of the defendants really prefer to delay and there will be vigorous motion practice, it's really hard to imagine all of the defendants going to trial at the end of October.
Jessica, we're going to see all of this unfold on television. What's next in this case?
I think what's next in this case is exactly what we've been talking about, which is who goes to trial first and in which particular courthouse. Is it a state courthouse? Is it a federal courthouse? My guess is that if there is a trial at the end of October before Halloween, again, it's with respect to Kenneth Chesebro, maybe only separately Sidney Powell. But again, what's next is, what does this case look like moving forward? How many people are tried? When are they tried?
And I just want to highlight the fact that we're watching this live in real time right now, and how historic that is, considering the former president is attached to this case. We don't see him here today. We don't expect to. How do you think, considering there is a lot of misinformation, we're in the political climate, how do you think the fact that it is being televised and everyone can watch the, quite frankly, sometimes boring legal procedure play out, how might that impact the public perception of all this?
Maybe you and I will have a polite disagreement about boring, but
yeah, sorry. I hesitated to use that word, but yeah.
No, well, it's a different threshold for a law professor. I think my students would agree. But how is this affecting it? I mean, I hope for the better. This is our house. This is not a public place. Excuse me, a private place. This is a public courtroom. And I think it's so helpful to have transparency. I hope that we are helping to highlight the big points of what's happening this morning, but the people should be able to see for themselves. This is not a corporate boardroom. This is a judge who's paid by us. These are district attorneys who work for us, who work for the people. And these are people who are alleged to have engaged in, I would view them as very public crimes. I think it would help all of us if each of these trials had this type of transparency. Particularly, you mentioned misinformation. I think that's so important. If you want to believe a certain view about these trials, you can check yourself by looking at exactly what happened. You don't have to trust me. You can go back and play the recording or read the transcript. And I think that's so important for people in understanding exactly what is and isn't being alleged in these cases.
Jessica Levinson, a very complicated case that you are helping break down for us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
As always.